Hi everyone, I'm Ivanna and this is Simona Veleva. She's a constitutional law expert and a media advisor in Bulgaria. So I really enjoyed your lecture and I would like to ask you some more questions. And the first one is, what are some of the most common challenges for Bulgarian media organizations?
First of all, good evening to you and to your audience. I'm very honored and glad to be here among such brilliant and interested people, young people. When it comes about your first question, what are the challenges in Bulgaria when it comes about freedom of expression? In Bulgaria, there are numerous challenges right now. They're not only legal, they're factual. There are problems with media ownership, there are problems with the working conditions of journalists. There are also other problems, but they're on one hand they're complex, on the other hand they're very concrete. I would say one of the biggest problems is also self-censorship. Journalists should know that they should fight for their own rights, and they have all legal means for that. And it's a long and hard fight, and I know that because I'm a part of that. But we shouldn't give up, and we should really consider the rule of law above all and everything else.
Well, do you have an opinion on how freedom of expression in the Balkans and in Bulgaria in particular can actually be expanded?
Well, every individual Balkan country is different and they have different problems. But however, as a region, we have also some common problematic grounds. And they're all connected to the relation between the government and the media, or how the state controls the media and how the media correspond to that. It's a long and hard process, and for countries who shifted and changed their legal systems, most of us, it's very hard only for 30 years to fight for those democratic values which weren't established previously. But in order to expand our freedom of expression, first we should really consider what's the content of freedom of expression and what are our legal grounds to expand it and to use it. And I would say the most important means for expanding freedom of expression on the Balkans will be connection and mutual work. Because on the Balkans we are very often divided, which is not something good, and we're so close to each other. We're so close in our mentality, in our way of thinking. We have so many things in common, and if we work together, I'm sure we can really fight not only for freedom of expression, but also for other common values.
So do you think that it is the law that needs to be changed, or the culture as well, so our society can actually achieve greater freedom of expression?
Well, I would say both. Law itself is just an instrument, and it's an instrument which is used by the people in order to satisfy their interests and their needs and to protect their rights. So when we talk about freedom of expression, it's, I would say, firstly, a question of mentality of the society, because if the society has the sensitivity that freedom of expression is suppressed, they're going to fight back. And if they fight back, if we have a strong civil society, we will adopt legitimate and adequate laws.
What do you consider as a limitation to freedom of expression connected to the three different freedoms separately? To access to information?
According to the Bulgarian constitution, in Article 39, 40 and 41, we have freedom of expression as a separate human right, we have freedom of the press and other communicational means, and we have freedom of information. They have different legal grounds for limitation, but they also are very tightly connected. And in the decision of the Constitutional Court, number 7 from 1996, the Constitutional Court says that they're all communicational rights. So we should always consider them according to one another. And for you as students, I believe it's very important to also know them quite well, and you should always consider what type of right you're exercising. Are you exercising your freedom of expression? Are you exercising your freedom of information, or the freedom of the media?
Can you give us an example of a case when the court ruled against a person you considered innocent connected to freedom of expression, of course?
Well, there are numerous cases in which innocent media, for example, were fined for. There was a court decision. I remember one in particular. Of course, I can't prove it. This is my own opinion. But in Burgas recently, some media used information which was provided by the police. And this was unofficial information about someone. And they only changed the title, so it can be more attractive, right? But at the end, the information provided by the police was considered unlawful according to the court, and the media were fined, and it was a huge fine, and their freedom of expression was limited, and the court says that this person was innocent. However, how can we know that when we have the official information? So I believe in this case the media were innocent. They just did their job.
Is there a case where you think the limitations under Article 10 have actually been very, very beneficial to society? Something very memorable to you?
I believe in every case when we use Article 10, and the court applies it in Bulgaria, it's beneficial for the society. I know a certain case, Marinova and others versus Bulgaria, in which case Ms. Marinova and two other complainers, they raised concerns about the work of some public officials, and the public officials sued them in front of the Bulgarian state for harming their reputation and so on. The thing was that Ms. Marinova and the other two applicants in front of the European Court of Human Rights, they never spread the information about their concerns. They just raised the complaint in front of the state, and they said, I believe this person did something, please check them out. The investigation found out this person did nothing, but this was used as a legal ground against Ms. Marinova and the other two applicants for the state to issue a fine against them. They went in front of the European Court of Human Rights, and the court says that their freedom of expression was unlawfully limited. So,
according to Article 10, as well as the law against disinformation, limitations can be imposed when one has caused harm, but how do you prove that the harm was actually caused intentionally?
When we talk about disinformation, well, in the recent years, actually last year, European Commission issued a communication, and it was the first time they defined disinformation. They only define disinformation right now. Disinformation is a term, or fake news, as we are used to say. It's not a crime, because if it was, then who is going to say what is fake news and what is true news? You have a Ministry of the Truth. I recommend you 1984, the book of Orwell, when you have a government body which says what is the truth and what isn't. We are in a very dangerous situation in which actually someone can have the power over the truth. And I don't believe right now we are ready for limiting disinformation, even on European level. I'm quite skeptical about the measures which are going to be taken, and I think maybe something should be done, but in a very careful and considered way.
If we think about cases when disinformation does occur and they're taken to court because harm is caused, if you prove that they've done it on purpose, should there still be punishment for the offender because of the harm caused when they did not do it intentionally?
Well, I believe the subjects which might be punished should be not the ones who use the information unintentionally, because that would be the mass of the people, right? Because when you have disinformation, it's used normally for propaganda and for some very specific purposes. And we had such a case in Bulgaria with the strategic of the child. It was cut off by the government. The government says they're not going to apply the strategic of the child, and months after that, we still have protests against the strategy, and the strategy wasn't adopted at all. So this was a very clear case for using disinformation for certain purposes. The majority of people, they were just misled. They didn't repost or reuse this information intentionally, or even if they did, they were thinking they were acting according to their best behavior. However, those who were coordinating the disinformation campaign, they should be defined, and the state should take specific measures against that. But it's a very complex process and it's very hard to be proven.
What are some of the tips you can give to the journalism students from the university to protect their freedom of expression once they actually enter the real world?
I believe the American University in Bulgaria prepares really great future journalists. I would really recommend you to always be aware of all the facts. Use always at least 2 sources of information. Always ask yourselves and doubt every information you have over and over again, and always think about your target group, why and for whom you're doing this material, and of course prepare on the legal basis, because you should know your rights, because you will be the ones who will be the defendants of the public, you will be the society's watchdogs, and your work is extremely valuable for the whole society.
Is there anything else you would like to add addressing the students from the university?
I would like to wish them all the best. If they want to connect to me, they can find me on Instagram, in Simona, or also on Facebook or in LinkedIn. Simona Veleva is my name. And if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to contact me.
It was a pleasure for me to speak
For me as
to
well.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.